April 1945. A muddy road outside a shattered German village somewhere in Bavaria. The spring rain had turned the ground into thick brown soup that sucked at boots with every step. Eleanor Hayes crumpled into that mud, her legs giving out beneath her, unable to feel anything below her waist. Her 11 companions prepared to die beside her. They had walked for 4 days through the chaos of a collapsing nation beaten by their own retreating soldiers for the crime of survival. But when the American medics saw Eleanor's twisted spine and heard her screams echo across the bombed-out farmland, they didn't raise their rifles. They didn't turn away. They sprinted toward her medical bags, bouncing against their hips. This was not propaganda. This was war's strange mercy, and it would haunt them forever. But before that moment, before the choice that would define his life, there was Corporal James Miller, 24 years old, medic, brother, and a man consumed by hate. 6 weeks earlier, December 1944, Hurtgen Forest. Snow fell thick and fast, covering the bodies faster than the graves of registration units could collect them. The forest they called the meat grinder. Trees exploded from artillery fire, sending splinters of wood flying like shrapnel. Men died from wood wounds more often than bullets. Tommy Miller lay in that snow, 19 years old, his dress uniform still crisp from the parade ground before deployment. Now it was soaked red. Jimmy knelt beside him, hands shaking as he tried to pack the abdominal wound. Too much damage, too much blood, no morphine left. Nothing left but watching his baby brother die. Jimmy, Tommy's voice was weak breath coming in short gasps. I can't feel my legs. You're gonna be fine, kid. Just hold on. The lie tasted like copper in Jimmy's mouth. Don't lie to me, Jim. I know. Jimmy's hands kept moving, kept trying, even as he felt Tommy's life slipping away under his fingers. Tell Ma, Tommy whispered. Tell her I wasn't scared. He was terrified. Jimmy could see it in his eyes. I'll tell her you were brave, the bravest. Tommy managed a weak smile. Did I do good? You did real good, Tommy, real good. Jimmy, it's cold. Jimmy ripped off his jacket, covered his brother. I know, buddy, I know. Don't hate them too much, okay? Tommy's breathing was labored now. Ma wouldn't want you to. He never finished the sentence. Jimmy held his brother's body in the snow for 20 minutes until Sergeant Robert Anderson physically pulled him away. He's gone, son. He's gone. Jimmy didn't cry, didn't scream, just stood there, snow falling on Tommy's still face, and felt something inside himself freeze solid. For 4 months after Tommy's death, Jimmy worked like a machine. Treat, stabilize, evacuate, repeat. He stopped looking German prisoners in the eye, stopped caring if they lived or died. Did the minimum required by the Geneva Convention and nothing more. Doc Anderson noticed. You can't keep doing this, Jimmy. Doing what? Treating them like objects. They're patients. They're enemy soldiers. They're kids, just like Tommy. Don't you dare compare them to Tommy. Doc's voice was quiet. I'm not, but hate's gonna eat you alive, son. Good, keeps me warm. No, it freezes you from the inside. Jimmy turned away. He didn't want wisdom. He wanted revenge. But the war wouldn't give him that satisfaction. So he settled for cold efficiency and counted the days until he could go home. April 23, 1945. The 128th Evacuation Hospital had been processing hundreds of German POWs daily. The Reich was collapsing. Soldiers surrendered in droves. Women and children fled westward, preferring American occupation to Soviet. Miller Anderson, Captain Thompson called out, need you to escort some prisoners back from Collection Point Alpha. 12 German women nurses and support staff. Routine transport. Yes, sir, Doc responded. Jimmy said nothing, just grabbed his medical bag and followed Doc to the Jeep. The drive took 30 minutes through countryside scarred by war. Burned out tanks, abandoned artillery. Refugees trudging along the roads with everything they owned on their backs. War's almost over, Jimmy, Doc said, trying to make conversation. Maybe 2 weeks. Yeah. What you gonna do after? Don't know, don't care. You gotta care about something. I did, he's dead. Doc fell silent. They found the 2 infantry privates standing guard over 12 women sitting by the roadside. Exhausted, filthy, terrified. What's the situation, Doc asked. Private Harris gestured to a woman lying in the mud. That one collapsed about an hour ago. Says she can't move her legs. We tried to get close, but they won't let us near her. Doc approached slowly, hands raised in a peaceful gesture. The women clustered tighter around their fallen companion. A tall woman with angular features stepped forward, blocking Doc's path. She spoke rapidly in German. She's protecting her, Doc observed. Jimmy, get the morphine ready. Jimmy didn't move. Corporal Miller, morphine, now. She's German. Doc turned and Jimmy had never seen that expression on the older man's face before. Pure steel. She's human. Morphine, that's an order. Jimmy's hands shook as he pulled out the syringe and morphine vial. Not from fear, from rage. 4 months of rage compressed into this moment. He knelt in the mud beside the woman. Blonde hair matted with dirt. Face contorted in agony. Spine twisted at an unnatural angle. She was maybe 26. Tommy's age if he'd lived. The woman looked up at him, terror in her eyes. She said something in German. He didn't understand the words but understood the meaning. Please, help me. For a moment, time stopped. Jimmy stared into those terrified eyes and saw Tommy. Saw his brother in the snow looking up at him with that same desperate hope. His hand gripped the morphine syringe so tight his knuckles went white. He could let her suffer. Let her feel a fraction of what Tommy felt. What Jimmy felt every day since. It would be justice. But then he heard Tommy's voice in his memory. Don't hate them too much. And he made a choice. Jimmy's hand steadied. He spoke softly, knowing she wouldn't understand the words but might understand the tone. This is going to help with the pain. Hold still. He injected the morphine into her arm, watched her face slowly relax as the drug took effect, saw the terror in her eyes fade to confusion then, to something that looked almost like hope. She reached out, grabbed his hand, squeezed it with surprising strength. He squeezed back. In that moment, something inside Jimmy that had been frozen since December began to thaw. Doc knelt beside him, examining the woman's spine. Fracture at L3 to L4, possible spinal cord damage. We need to get her to the hospital now. He radioed for an ambulance while Jimmy stayed beside the woman holding her hand. The other 11 women watched in silence, their fears slowly giving way to something else. Confusion. Hope. The beginning of understanding that maybe, just maybe, the propaganda had lied. 20 minutes later, the ambulance arrived. The medics worked with extreme care, stabilizing her spine with a wooden board securing her neck, lifting her onto the stretcher with practiced precision. The whole process took 10 minutes. Every time she cried out, they stopped and waited. Jimmy watched the tall woman who'd tried to protect her companion. Tears streamed down her dirty face. She approached him slowly, said something in German. Private Weber, who'd arrived with the ambulance, translated. She says thank you for saving her friend. She says they thought you were monsters, but you're angels. Jimmy looked at his hands, still steady, no longer shaking with hate. I'm no angel, he said quietly. But maybe he thought he wasn't a monster either. The ambulance pulled away, the woman inside fighting for her life. The 11 remaining women climbed into a transport truck. Jimmy and Doc followed in their Jeep. As they drove toward the hospital, Doc finally spoke. You did good back there, son. Jimmy touched the spot on his hand where the woman had gripped him. I almost didn't. But you did. That's what matters. Tommy told me not to hate too much, his last words. Smart kid. Yeah, he was. They drove in silence, following the ambulance with its precious cargo. Jimmy didn't know it yet, but his life had just changed forever. The woman in that ambulance, fighting for every breath, would save him just as surely as he'd saved her. Her name was Eleanor Hayes, and this was just the beginning. The 128th Evacuation Hospital sprawled across 3 football fields of Bavarian countryside. Green tents stretched in orderly rows. Generators hummed, the organized chaos of military medicine in full operation. Dr. William Foster, chief of surgery, was waiting when they arrived. 45 years old veteran of over 800 surgeries, he'd seen everything. But he moved with urgency as the medics wheeled Eleanor's stretcher into the trauma bay. Report, he barked. Jimmy stepped forward. Female mid-20s spinal trauma L3 to L4 region. Possible fracture with spinal cord compression. Loss of sensation below waist. Administered 10 milligrams morphine at 14:45. Vitals stable but critical. Foster examined the x-rays quickly. Prep OR2, full spinal surgery team. This is going to take a while. He looked at Jimmy. Good work stabilizing her, Corporal. We'll take it from here. Sir, Jimmy heard himself say, request permission to observe the surgery. Foster raised an eyebrow. She's a German POW. You don't have to. I know, sir, but I want to. Foster studied him for a moment, then nodded. Scrub in. You can assist. The surgery lasted 5 hours. Jimmy stood in operating room 2, masked and gloved, watching Dr. Foster work with the precision of a master craftsman. The spinal column laid open vertebrae exposed the delicate work of stabilizing shattered bone while avoiding permanent nerve damage. Suction, Foster commanded. Jimmy provided it. I need to insert pins here, here, and here, Foster explained. Pointing, 4 total. They'll stabilize the vertebrae while the bone heals. If we're lucky, and if we don't damage the spinal cord further, she might walk again. Might, Jimmy asked. 50-50 odds, maybe better. She's young, healthy. The break could have been worse. Foster carefully drilled the first pin. But there's no guarantees in spinal surgery. We do our best. The rest is up to her and God. 3 hours and complications arose. Internal bleeding around the spinal cord. They needed a transfusion. Type O negative, the nurse called out. Universal donor. Jimmy watched them hang the blood bag. American blood donated by American soldiers now flowing into a German woman's veins. Foster noticed his expression. That's your type, isn't it, Corporal? Yes, sir. You donated last month. Yes, sir. Then there's a good chance that's literally your blood keeping her alive right now. Jimmy stared at the crimson fluid dripping into Eleanor's IV. His blood. In a woman who 4 months ago he'd have happily watched die. The surgery continued. Hour 4, Foster was suturing the damaged dura around the spinal cord. Meticulous work. One mistake could mean paralysis. Hour 5 closing, layer by layer, muscle, fascia, skin. Finally, Foster straightened, removed his gloves. Vitals. Stable, sir, the anesthesiologist reported. BP 110/70. Heart rate 68. She's stable. Foster looked at Jimmy. She made it. Now we wait to see if she walks. They wheeled Eleanor to recovery. Jimmy followed, though his shift had ended hours ago. He sat beside her bed as she slept morphine, keeping the pain at bay. Her face was peaceful now. Young, innocent, someone's daughter, maybe someone's sister. Who are you? He whispered in English, knowing she couldn't hear, couldn't understand. Who were you before this war? The night nurse, Captain Sarah Thompson, approached. You should get some rest, Corporal. I know. But you're not going to, are you? No, ma'am. She smiled gently. She's lucky to have someone care this much. I'm not sure why I do, Jimmy admitted. Sometimes we don't know why we care. We just do. That's what makes us human. Sarah left him alone with Eleanor. He pulled out his journal, started writing. April 23rd, 1945. Today I saved a German woman's life. Her spine was broken. We operated for 5 hours. I held her hand while she screamed. I gave her my blood when she bled. And I don't know why I care if she lives or dies, but I do. I care more than I've cared about anything since Tommy died. Maybe that's the answer. Maybe caring is how we come back to life. He stopped writing, looked at Eleanor, sleeping peacefully. Live, he whispered. Please live. Eleanor woke at dawn, confusion first. Where was she? The last thing she remembered was mud, pain, fear. Then she tried to move her legs. Nothing. Panic seized her. She tried to sit up, couldn't. Her back screamed in protest. Easy, easy. A voice, male, gentle. She turned her head. The American medic, the one with the kind eyes who'd held her hand. He was holding it again now. She tried to speak, but her mouth was so dry. He seemed to understand, held a cup of water to her lips. She drank gratefully. My legs, she managed in German, though she doubted he understood. I cannot feel my legs. He seemed to grasp her meaning from her expression, the way she looked down at her unmoving lower body. He said something in English, his tone calm and reassuring. A third person arrived. Younger man, also American. He spoke German. I am Private Weber, he said. I translate. The doctor comes soon. He will explain everything. Dr. Foster arrived 10 minutes later with Weber in tow. The examination was thorough and terrifying. Reflex tests, sensation tests, each negative result another weight on Eleanor's chest. Finally, through Weber, Foster spoke. Miss Hayes, you suffered a severe spinal fracture. We operated for 5 hours yesterday. We stabilized your spine with metal pins. The surgery was successful. Eleanor waited for the but you currently have no sensation or movement below the waist. This may be temporary, or it may be permanent. We won't know for several weeks. Will I walk again? She asked. Foster's honesty was brutal but kind. I don't know. We'll do everything we can. Physical therapy starts tomorrow, but I can't make promises I can't keep. Eleanor closed her eyes, felt tears leaking from the corners. Then she felt the American medic's hand tighten around hers. She opened her eyes, looked at him. He said something in English. Weber translated. He says, we'll fight like hell to make it happen. She searched the medic's face, saw determination there, saw compassion, saw something she never expected to see from an American soldier. Hope. What is your name? She asked through Weber. Corporal James Miller, but everyone calls me Jimmy. I am Eleanor Hayes. She paused. Thank you, Jimmy Miller, for saving my life. You're welcome, Eleanor Hayes. Their hands remained clasped. Two people from opposite sides of a war holding on to each other like lifelines, because that's exactly what they were. 3 days passed. Jimmy wasn't officially assigned to Eleanor's care, but he found ways to be there. Morning visits before his shift, evening visits after, bringing small comforts. An extra blanket, a cup of real coffee, flowers from the field outside the hospital. They couldn't really communicate. Eleanor's English was minimal. Jimmy's German was non-existent. But they didn't need words. He'd sit beside her bed, hold her hand, and they'd exist together in comfortable silence. On day 3, Rebecca Mills arrived, the physical therapist. 29, energetic from Texas with a no-nonsense approach that both terrified and inspired. Eleanor Hayes, Rebecca's voice boomed, I'm going to make you walk again. Through Weber, Eleanor understood. The first session was torture. Move your right big toe, Rebecca instructed. Eleanor closed her eyes, concentrated with everything she had, forehead dripping sweat, jaw clenched. Nothing. Try again. Again, Eleanor poured all her will into moving one tiny toe. Nothing. She screamed in frustration, slammed her fist on the mattress. Jimmy stepped forward instinctively, but Rebecca held up a hand. Let her process. Eleanor? Rebecca's voice was firm. Look at me. She did, tears streaming. This is day one. Day one, now I see. Nobody walks on day 1 after spinal surgery. But we try. Every single day we try. And one day, maybe tomorrow, maybe next week, that toe will move. But only if you keep trying. Eleanor wiped her tears, nodded. That night, alone in her bed, Eleanor wept. Deep, racking sobs of fear and frustration. Jimmy found her like that during his evening visit. Sat beside her, didn't try to shush her or fix it. Just held her hand and let her cry. When she finally calmed, she looked at him and said one word in English she'd learned. Why? He understood the question. Why was he helping her? Why did he care? Jimmy thought about his answer. Finally, through Weber, who'd appeared, he said, because 4 months ago my brother died, and I've been angry ever since. Angry at Germans, angry at the war, angry at everything. Eleanor listened. But when I look at you, I don't see an enemy. I see someone who's scared and hurt and fighting to survive, just like my brother was. And I couldn't save him. But maybe I can save you. Weber translated. Eleanor's eyes filled with fresh tears. She squeezed his hand. Your brother, she said in halting English. He was good man, the best. I'm sorry. Me too. They sat in silence, two people grieving different losses, finding unexpected comfort in each other. Day 5 brought the first miracle. Rebecca was conducting the afternoon session, Jimmy observing from the corner. Eleanor had been trying for 30 minutes to move her toes. Failure after failure. But then at minute 32, Eleanor gasped. I feel something. Rebecca grabbed a pin. Where? Show me. Eleanor pointed to her right big toe. Rebecca touched it with the pin. Do you feel this? Yes, I feel it. The room erupted, Rebecca whooping. Jimmy grinning so wide his face hurt. Eleanor crying happy tears. It was just sensation. Not movement yet, but it was progress. Again, Rebecca demanded. We're not stopping now. They worked for another hour. By the end, Eleanor could feel sensation in her right foot up to the ankle. The nerves were reconnecting. That evening, Jimmy wrote in his journal, April 28, 1945. Eleanor felt her toe today. Just sensation, not movement yet. But it's proof the nerves are alive. Proof she might walk. I haven't felt this happy since before Tommy died. It's strange, she's German. We're supposed to be enemies. But when she succeeds, I feel like I succeed. When she hurts, I hurt. What is that? What are we to each other but don't have the answer? But I know she matters. More than I ever expected. Day 7 brought movement. Eleanor was in session with Rebecca. Jimmy present as always. She'd been working on toe movement for 20 minutes. Once more, Rebecca encouraged. I know you're tired. But once more. Eleanor closed her eyes, took a deep breath, concentrated, and her right big toe moved. 1 millimeter. Barely visible. But all 3 of them saw it. Eleanor's eyes flew open. You did. Jimmy couldn't contain himself. Do it again. She focused. The toe moved again. Clearer this time. Eleanor screamed, not in pain, in pure, unbridled joy. Rebecca grabbed her in a hug. Jimmy stood there grinning like an idiot. We're going to get you walking, Rebecca promised. I swear to God, we're going to get you walking. Eleanor looked at Jimmy through her tears. I did it. You did it. Because of you. No, because of you. You did this. But they both knew it was together. Neither could have done it alone. 1 week after the surgery, the 11 other German women were allowed to visit Eleanor. Margaret Porter, the tall woman who'd protected Eleanor on the road, led the group. She approached Jimmy, first spoke in rapid German. Weber translated. She says you are the medic, the one with shaking hands. Jimmy was surprised she'd noticed that detail. Yes. Your hands don't shake now. He looked at his hands, steady as stone. No, they don't. What changed? Margaret asked through Weber. Jimmy thought. I stopped being angry, started being human. Margaret's expression softened. She spoke at length, Weber translating. We were taught you were monsters. Propaganda told us Americans would kill us. Us rape us, leave us to die. That you had no souls. But you have the biggest soul I've ever seen. You chose mercy when you could have chosen revenge. That's the hardest thing. Thank you. For all of us. Jimmy didn't know what to say, just nodded. The women gathered around Eleanor's bed. Tears, laughter, relief. They'd all survived. One woman, Betty Wilson, approached Jimmy afterward. She spoke some English. You saved her life, Betty said. Why? Because it was the right thing to do. Even though we are enemy, Jimmy looked at Eleanor laughing with her friends. I don't see enemies anymore. Just people. Betty smiled. You are good man, Jimmy Miller. As April turned to May, Eleanor's progress accelerated. Day 10 could move all toes on right foot, left foot still paralyzed. Day 12, sensation in both legs to mid-thigh. Day 14 could bend to right knee. Small movement, but movement. Each milestone, Jimmy was there. Encouraging, supporting, believing when Eleanor's faith wavered. They developed a routine. Morning visit before his shift, evening session after, and always holding hands. Frank Washington, Jimmy's friend and fellow medic, noticed. Brother, you sweet on that German girl. What? No, I just want her to walk. Why, because if she walks, it means something good came from this war. Frank studied him. You sure that's all? Jimmy paused. I don't know what we are, but she's important. That much I know. Does she know what? That she matters to you? Jimmy thought about that. I think so, yeah. May 7th, rumors swept through the hospital. Germany was about to surrender. The war was ending. At 3 a.m. on May 8th, it became official. The announcement came over the loudspeakers. Germany has surrendered unconditionally. The war in Europe is over. The hospital erupted in celebration. Music, dancing, tears of joy and relief. Jimmy sat on his cot listening to the chaos outside. Feelings mixed in a complicated tangle. Happy the war was over. But Tommy didn't live to see it. He pulled out Tommy's last letter, always in his pocket. Read it again for the 1,000th time. I hope I live to see peace. He didn't. Jimmy stood, needed to see Eleanor, needed to tell her. The recovery ward was quiet despite the celebration outside. He found Eleanor awake, listening to the distant cheering. Eleanor, he whispered. She turned surprised. Jimmy, The war. It's over. Germany surrendered. She understood enough English now. Her face showed complex emotions: relief, sadness, fear. Your country lost, Jimmy said gently. I know. Her English improving daily. But killing stops. That is good. Yeah, killing stops. Silence. Then Eleanor asked, You are happy, Jimmy considered. I don't know. My brother died. He won't see this peace. I am sorry. She reached for his hand. My students, many dead too. Children I taught. They held hands in the darkness, sharing grief. What happens now? Eleanor asked. To me, you'll go home eventually. München, repatriation process will take time. Fear crossed her face. What if München is destroyed? What if parents are dead? Then we'll find out, together. Together, hope in her voice. I'll help however I can. Eleanor squeezed his hand. Why you so kind to me? Jimmy didn't have an easy answer. Because you remind me that even in the worst times there's good, and I need that reminder. She studied his face in the dim light. You carry heavy weight, Jimmy Miller. So do you. Maybe we carry together, weight is lighter. Jimmy smiled, truly smiled. Yeah, maybe we do. Day 22, May 16th, 1945. 3 weeks since the surgery. Eleanor could wiggle all toes, could bend both knees. Sensation had returned to both legs almost completely. But she hadn't stood yet, hadn't tried to bear her own weight. Today was the day. Rebecca Mills set up parallel bars in the recovery tent. 2 metal rails waist-high 3 feet apart. Standard equipment for spinal rehabilitation. Eleanor sat in her wheelchair between the bars, face tense with fear and determination. Jimmy stood to the right, Rebecca to the left. Dr. Foster observing from behind with his clipboard. Ready? Rebecca asked. Eleanor looked down at her legs. 3 weeks ago, they were dead weight. Now they could move, could feel, but standing, supporting her body. I am afraid, Eleanor admitted. I know, honey, but we got you, right, Jimmy? Right, I got you. Eleanor took a deep breath. Okay, we try. Rebecca walked her through it, feet flat on the ground first. Eleanor complied. The cold floor sent sensation through her feet. She could feel it. Hands on the bars, gripped tight. Eleanor's knuckles went white from the pressure. On 3, push with your arms and try to straighten your legs. Don't worry about standing completely. Just straighten. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Eleanor pushed. Her face turned red with effort. Veins stood out in her neck. Arms trembling. Her legs barely moved. Maybe 20% extension. Then they gave out. She collapsed back into the wheelchair, panting. I cannot. Jimmy knelt to eye level. Yes, you can. You just did 20%. Tomorrow it'll be 21. We build slowly, again. Eleanor looked at Rebecca, who nodded encouragingly. Again, Ma, Eleanor said through gritted teeth. Second attempt. This time her legs straightened to 40%. Held for 2 seconds. Progress. Better, Rebecca clapped. Much better. Once more. I need minute. Take your time. Eleanor closed her eyes. Breathed deeply, centering herself. Then, I am ready again. Third attempt. Eleanor gripped the bars. 3 deep breaths, then pushed. Her legs trembled violently, every muscle quivering with effort. But they straightened. 60%, 70, 80. Keep going, Rebecca urged. Eleanor's face contorted. Sweat poured down her temples. But she pushed. 90%. And then she was upright. Not completely straight, slight bend at the knees, but vertical, standing. Oh my God, Rebecca whispered. Hold it, Dr. Foster called. How long can you hold? 5 seconds. 10, 15. Jimmy's hands hovered at Eleanor's waist, ready to catch if needed. But she didn't need it, shaking like a leaf but standing. 20 seconds. 25. Eleanor, look at me, Jimmy said softly. She turned her head slightly. Their eyes met, and in her eyes pure triumph mixed with disbelief. You're standing. I am standing, she whispered. 30 seconds. That's enough for first, Rebecca started to say. No. Eleanor cut her off. I walk. Eleanor, you don't have to. I walk. Silence. Then Dr. Foster, let her try. Eleanor shifted weight to her right foot, lifted the left just 1 inch off the ground. The bars rattled from her trembling. She moved her left foot forward, 6 inches, planted it. The crowd that had gathered held its collective breath. Right foot, lifted, forward, 6 inches, 1 step. Left foot, forward, 2 steps. Right foot, only 4 inches this time. Exhaustion hitting hard. 3 steps. Eleanor's strength gave out. Her legs buckled. Jimmy and Rebecca caught her smoothly, lowered her gently into the wheelchair Weber had pushed behind her. But the damage was done, in the best possible way. The recovery tent erupted. Applause, cheers, nurses crying, medics clapping, patients applauding from their beds. Eleanor collapsed into the wheelchair sobbing, not from pain, but from overwhelming emotion. Jimmy knelt beside her, still holding her hand. "You walked." "I walked." She laughed through tears. "3 steps. I walked 3 steps." Margaret pushed through the crowd, embraced Eleanor. "I knew it. I knew you would." Betty right behind crying. "You did it." Grace stood back, hands over mouth, tears streaming. Dr. Foster approached unusual emotion on his normally stoic face. "Miss Hayes, in my 30 years of medicine, that's one of the most remarkable recoveries I've witnessed." Through Weber, Eleanor responded, "Not recovery, miracle. You gave me miracle." Foster shook his head. "No, we gave you tools. You did the work." Rebecca hugged Eleanor from behind. "3 steps today, 5 tomorrow, 10 next week. By June, you'll walk out of here." Eleanor turned to Jimmy. They didn't speak. Didn't need to. In that shared look, understanding deeper than words. He had saved her life on a muddy road, but she had saved his soul in this tent. Even trade. That evening, Jimmy sat alone in the barracks. The other medics were at the VE Day celebration that was still going strong a week later. He pulled out his journal. May 16th, 1945. Eleanor walked today. 3 steps. I watched a woman who was paralyzed 3 weeks ago stand on her own legs and walk. Dr. Foster called it remarkable. I call it a miracle. But the real miracle isn't medical. It's what she did for me. 4 months ago, I was drowning in hate. She pulled me out, showed me I could still choose good. I came to Germany to fight. I'm leaving having learned to heal. Not just bodies, souls, starting with my own. He paused, pen hovering over the page. What happens when she leaves, when she goes back to Munich and I go back to Pennsylvania? Can we just write letters and pretend that's enough? He didn't have the answer. 5 days later, May 21st, Captain Thompson called a meeting with the 12 German women. Weber translating. Ladies' repatriation has been finalized. Transport to München is scheduled for June 10th, 3 weeks from today. Mixed reactions rippled through the group. Relief, fear. Eleanor felt both simultaneously. Thompson continued, each of you will receive clothing, food supplies for 1-week medical certificates and letters of safe conduct. He looked at Eleanor. For those with ongoing medical needs, we'll provide medications, instructions for German doctors, and follow-up recommendations. After the meeting, the 12 women gathered in their tent. Private conversation. Processing. Margaret spoke first. I have no family in München, but I'll find nursing work. That's all I know. Betty wiped her eyes. I go back to Anna, my daughter. She's waited long enough. Grace's voice was quiet but firm. I will write everything. My confession about the propaganda ministry. People need to know what we did, what I did. Rose, formerly the most skeptical, surprised everyone. I was wrong about the Americans. I'll tell people in Berlin. Some won't believe me, but I'll try. Eleanor had been silent. Finally, she spoke. I'll teach, if they'll let me, teach children to think, to question, to not repeat our mistakes. Margaret asked the difficult question, what about the Americans? What do we tell people about them? Silence. Grace broke it. The truth. We tell the truth. They showed mercy when they could have shown hate. That's a fact, not an opinion. Betty nodded. Some will call us collaborators. Let them, Eleanor said firmly. I won't lie to protect my reputation. Lies started this war. Only truth can end it. They made a pact that night. Whatever happened when they returned to Germany, they would tell the truth about what they'd experienced, about the American medics who chose mercy, about the doctors who saved enemy lives, about the nurses who showed kindness. Some might not believe them, some might hate them for it, but they would speak truth anyway. The next morning, Jimmy found Eleanor practicing walking. She could go 50 feet now with a single crutch. The limp would probably be permanent, but she was mobile. "You're getting good at that," he observed. "Thank you," she smiled. "I practice every day. Rebecca says by June I might not need the crutch at all." "That's great." Jimmy hesitated. "Eleanor, can we talk?" Of course. They sat on a bench outside the recovery tent, morning sun warm on their faces. "I heard about the repatriation date, June 10th. "Yes," Eleanor's smile faded. 3 weeks. "Are you ready to go back?" "I do not know. München is my home. My parents are there, I hope. But I am also afraid of what I will find, of what people will say when I tell them about this place, about you." Jimmy took her hand. It had become natural now, this physical connection. "What will you say about me?" Eleanor thought carefully. "I will say that a German sergeant broke my spine for trying to survive, and that American doctors gave me my legs back. That when I expected cruelty, I found kindness. That the enemy became my savior. Some people won't like that. I know, but it is truth." She squeezed his hand. "What will you say about me? That I met a German teacher who reminded me what it means to be human. That when I was drowning in hate, a woman I was supposed to see as my enemy threw me a lifeline. That she saved my life just as surely as I saved hers." They sat in silence for a moment. "Jimmy," Eleanor said softly, "what are we to each other?" The question he'd been avoiding. "I don't know," he admitted. "Friends doesn't feel like enough. But we're from different countries, different worlds. In 3 weeks you'll be in München. I'll be going back to Pennsylvania probably in July. We'll be thousands of miles apart. So we are nothing. Just two people who met in war." "No," Jimmy's voice was firm. "We're not nothing, we're something important. I just don't know what to call it yet." Eleanor smiled sadly. "In German there is a word, Schicksalsgemeinschaft. It means people bound together by fate or destiny." "Yeah, that fits. So we are Schicksalsgemeinschaft." "We are." Another silence, comfortable despite the uncertainty. "Will you write to me?" Eleanor asked. "When I am in München and you are in Pennsylvania?" "Every week if I can. I will write back. My English is getting better." "It is. It's really good now. I practice with the nurses. They are patient with me." Jimmy made a decision. "Eleanor, I want to tell you something. Dr. Foster thinks I should go to medical school. Become a doctor, not just a medic." Her face lit up. "That is wonderful. You would be an amazing doctor." "It's 8 years, though. 4 years of college first, then 4 years of medical school." "That's a long time." "Long roads can be traveled," Eleanor said. It was something Rebecca told her during the hard days of physical therapy. "You taught me that. When I could not move my toe, you said we build slowly, one day at a time." "I did say that, didn't I?" "And you were right. So now I say it to you, 8 years is long, but it can be traveled. One semester at a time, 1 year at a time." Jimmy looked at this woman who 3 weeks ago couldn't feel her legs, who now sat beside him, walking with only a slight limp, planning to return to teaching, ready to face a destroyed country with courage and honesty. "You're pretty amazing, you know that." Eleanor blushed. "I am just teacher. You're more than that. You're proof that good can come from terrible things, that mercy beats hate, that healing is possible." She leaned her head on his shoulder. He put his arm around her. They sat like that for a long time, two people from opposite sides of a war, finding unexpected peace in each other's presence. The final 2 weeks passed too quickly. Jimmy threw himself into Eleanor's continued recovery. She could walk 100 feet without a crutch now. The limp was noticeable, but didn't slow her down much. The other 11 women also prepared for departure. The hospital staff donated clothes, food, small amounts of money. Jimmy contributed his entire month's pay, $50, to the collection. Frank noticed. "That's a lot of money, brother. They need it more than I do." "You got it bad for that German girl." "Frank, I'm not judging. I think it's beautiful. Two people finding humanity in the middle of hell. That's what we're fighting for, right? Not to destroy, but to build bridges." Jimmy smiled. "When did you get so philosophical?" War makes poets of us all. June 8th, 2 days before departure, Eleanor gave Jimmy a gift, a drawing she'd made despite her still recovering hand coordination. It showed a muddy road, rain falling, two figures, one kneeling, one lying down, their hands clasped. At the bottom, in careful English, "Where I fell and you lifted me up." May 1945. Jimmy stared at it, throat tight. "Eleanor, this is beautiful. You keep it. Remember to choose good, always." "I will." He pulled something from his pocket. "Tommy's dog tags. I want you to have these." Her eyes widened. "Your brothers, I cannot." "Please." He placed them in her hands. Tommy's last words were, "Don't hate them too much." He meant people like you. He'd want you to have these. Corral them. Remember that even in war, brotherhood can cross enemy lines. Tears streamed down Eleanor's face. She put the tags around her neck. "I wear them always, I promise. And I'll wear this." Jimmy touched her cross necklace, still around his neck after all these weeks. "We carry each other." "Forever," Eleanor whispered. "Forever." June 9th, last full day. The hospital organized a farewell gathering. The 12 women sang for the staff, a traditional German folk song, Die Gedanken sind frei, thoughts are free. Weber wrote the English translation on a board. Thoughts are free, who can guess them? They flee by like nighttime shadows. No hunter can shoot them, no person can know them. It remains so, thoughts are free. The song banned by the Nazis for its message of freedom, now sung freely in an American military hospital. When they finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the tent. Individual goodbyes followed. Doc Anderson to Margaret, "You're a good nurse, keep saving lives." "You too, Sergeant. You taught me that mercy is strength, not weakness." Dr. Foster to Eleanor. He handed her an envelope. Medical recommendations, instructions for ongoing physical therapy, and my personal address. If you ever need anything, anything at all, you write me. "Thank you, doctor, for everything." Rebecca to Eleanor. "Keep walking, girl. Don't stop." "I will not. I promise." They hugged. Betty to Frank. "Thank you for seeing us as people, not just enemies." "You were never enemies to me. Just people who needed help." At 11 p.m., Jimmy found Eleanor outside the tent looking at the stars. "Can't sleep," he asked. "Too much to think about. Tomorrow I leave. I do not know when I will see you again. If I will see you again." Jimmy sat beside her on the bench. "Eleanor, I need to tell you something." "What?" 4 months ago, I wanted to die. Not suicide, but I didn't care if I lived. After Tommy died, life felt meaningless. Every day was just going through motions. She took his hand, listening. "Then I met you, and suddenly I had a reason. Reason to wake up. Reason to try. Reason to choose good instead of hate." His voice cracked. "You gave me purpose when I had none. You saved my life, Eleanor, just as surely as I saved yours. And you gave me legs when I had none," she replied. "You gave me hope when I had fear. You gave me proof that kindness exists even in war. We save each other." "Yeah, we did." They sat close, foreheads touching. Not kissing too complicated too soon, but connected in a way that went deeper than romance. "Wherever you go, Jimmy Miller, you carry part of me. And you carry part of me." Tommy's dog tags around her neck, her cross around his. Physical proof of spiritual bond. "I love you," Eleanor said suddenly. "I do not know if that is right thing to say. We are from different worlds. We barely know each other. But I must say it before I leave. I love you." Jimmy felt his heart expand and break simultaneously. "I love you too. I don't know what that means for us. I don't know if we have a future. But I know I love you. Then we have that. Whatever happens, we have this moment, this truth, and no one can take it from us." They held each other under the stars, two people who'd found love in the last place anyone would expect. In the ruins of war, in the space between enemy and friend, in the choice between hate and mercy. June 10th, 1945, 7 a.m. The trucks arrived right on time. Two transport vehicles, one for passengers, one for their meager belongings. Hospital staff lined up to say goodbye. The entire medical team that had cared for these women over the past weeks. The 12 women walked toward the trucks. Eleanor walked without assistance, just a slight limp. Proof of the miracle. One by one, they said final goodbyes. Margaret embraced Jimmy. Thank you. For all of us. Betty shook his hand. My daughter will hear this story about the American medic who chose mercy. Grace bowed slightly. You showed me that redemption is possible, that people can change. I will never forget. The others, each in their own way, expressed gratitude. Eleanor was last. She walked to Jimmy. They stood face to face. Be a good doctor, she said. Be a good teacher. Teach truth. Heal with love. They embraced, long, tight, desperate, both knowing this might be forever goodbye. When she pulled back, she touched Tommy's dog tags around her neck. He touched her cross around his. Ich werde dich nie vergessen, she whispered. I will never forget you. He didn't know German, but he understood. Neither will I. Eleanor climbed into the truck, found a seat by the rear opening. As the truck pulled away, she looked back. Jimmy stood in the same spot waving. She waved back until the truck turned the corner and he disappeared from view. That night, alone in the barracks, Jimmy wrote in his journal, June 10th, 1945. Eleanor left today, watched her truck drive away, felt like losing part of myself, but also felt complete. Is that possible, to feel loss and completeness at the same time? I think it is. Because she's not really gone. She's in here in my heart, in choices I'll make, in mercy I'll show, in lives I'll save. Doc says I have orders. Shipping home, July 15th, 5 weeks. Then Temple University, medical school, 8 years of study, long road. But Eleanor taught me that long roads can be traveled. I'm going to be a doctor, the best doctor I can be. I'm going to save lives, thousands of them, because one woman on one muddy road showed me that's what matters. Not revenge, not hate, not even victory, just mercy, just healing, just love. Thank you, Eleanor Hayes, for everything. Wherever you are, be safe, be strong, be you, and know that somewhere in America, a medic turned student is carrying your faith around his neck, forever. July 20th, 1945. Philadelphia train station, 7:45 p.m. The train whistle pierced the humid summer evening as Jimmy stepped onto the platform. Pennsylvania heat wrapped around him like a wet blanket, nothing like the crisp Bavarian spring he'd left behind. His duffel bag hung from one shoulder, uniform, wrinkled from 3 days of travel. Dr. Foster's medical textbook in one hand, already read cover to cover during the journey. Eleanor's cross hidden beneath his shirt. He touched it whenever anxiety crept in, which was often. Jimmy, his mother's voice cut through the crowd like a knife through butter. Sarah Miller, 58 years old, her hair grayer than in the photos Tommy had sent, thinner than Jimmy remembered. But her eyes, those same warm brown eyes, lit up when they found him. She ran. Jimmy hadn't seen his mother run since he was a boy. The embrace nearly knocked him over. Both of them crying. No words needed. Just the desperate grip of two people who'd lost so much, holding on to what remained. When she finally pulled back, Ma's hands cupped his face. Let me look at you. Her eyes cataloged every change. You're thinner, older, but you're here. You're really here. I'm here, Ma. His voice came out rough. Come on, borrowed Mr. Peterson's truck. It's out front. She grabbed his hand, wouldn't let go. The drive home passed in comfortable silence for the first 10 minutes. Jimmy watched Pennsylvania countryside roll by. Farms, barns, cows grazing in twilight. Everything so normal, so utterly unlike war. How was it? Ma finally asked. The war. He could have lied, could have said, fine, don't worry about it, I'm okay. But Ma deserved truth. Hard, really hard. Saw things I cannot unsee. Lost people I cared about. He paused. But I also found things. Found purpose. Found redemption, maybe. Ma waited. She'd always been good at waiting. I wrote you about Eleanor, the German woman, the teacher with the broken spine. Ma's voice was carefully neutral. Yeah, her. Jimmy pulled out the photograph, pointed. That's her, standing there with the crutch. Ma glanced while driving. She's pretty. Ma. I'm just saying. A small smile played at her lips. What happened, to her after you left? She went back to Munich, June 10th. Got one letter through Red Cross mail before I shipped out. Her parents are alive. Cities mostly destroyed but rebuilding. She starts teaching again in September. And you have a medical school, Temple University? GI Bill approved. I start September 5th. He hesitated. If that's okay with you. Ma's smile widened. Your father would be so proud. The mention of Dad sent a spike of pain through Jimmy's chest. I'm sorry I wasn't here. For the funeral. You were saving lives. He understood. Ma's voice was firm. He died proud of both his boys. Don't you ever doubt that. Home looked exactly as Jimmy remembered. Small two-story house in the suburbs, white with blue shutters. Ma's garden. The porch Dad had built. Memories in every corner. Inside, the smell of pot roast hit him immediately. You didn't have to. Hush, sit, eat. Ma pushed him toward the dining table already set for two. Over dinner, she asked careful questions. About the hospital, about Doc Anderson, about Dr. Foster. Not about combat, not about Tommy's death. Not yet. Jimmy answered, but his mind kept drifting. Strange being here in safety and peace, while Eleanor was thousands of miles away, rebuilding a broken country. After dinner, Ma said gently, Tommy's room. I kept it the same. Jimmy's throat tightened. Can I? Of course, honey. He climbed the stairs slowly, stood outside Tommy's door for a full minute before turning the knob. Everything exactly as he remembered. Bed made with military precision. Tommy had been proud of that. Books on the shelf, baseball glove on the dresser, photos on the wall, high school graduation, Tommy in dress uniform, Christmas 1943, the last one together. Jimmy sat on the bed. The springs creaked in that familiar room. He picked up the baseball glove, Tommy's most prized possession. The leather still smelled right. I'm sorry, kid, he whispered to the empty room. I'm sorry I couldn't save you. Silence. But I did what you asked. Didn't hate too much, chose mercy instead. He paused, wiping his eyes. Met this woman, Eleanor. You'd like her. She's strong, smart, kind. A wet laugh escaped. Ma thinks I'm sweet on her. Maybe I am. I don't know what we are. More silence. I'm gonna be a doctor. Gonna save people. Lots of them. In your honor, in her honor, in honor of everyone who didn't make it home. He set the glove down carefully, noticed an envelope on the nightstand addressed to him in Ma's handwriting. Fresh, recent. Inside a letter, dearest Jimmy. If you're reading this, you're home, thank God. I didn't send this earlier because I wanted to say it in person, but now that you're here, I find I can't speak the words. So I write them. Your father died proud. His last words were, my boys are heroes. Both of you, he meant it. I know you carry guilt about Tommy, about not being there, about not saving him. But Jimmy, you couldn't have saved him. No one could. That's war. That's the terrible, unfair truth of war. What you can do is live. Fully, completely. For both of you. This woman you wrote about, Eleanor, the German teacher. I want you to know I'm not upset. I'm grateful. Grateful that in all that horror you found humanity. That you chose compassion over hate. That my son came home with his soul intact. Your father and I raised you to be kind. War tried to take that from you. She helped you keep it. So no, I'm not upset that you care about her. I'm proud. Love her if you want to. Write her. Visit her someday. Whatever your heart tells you. Just promise me one thing. Live. Live enough for two. For you and Tommy. Be the doctor. Save the lives. Love the girl. Build the future. That's what Tommy would want. That's what I want. That's what you deserve. Welcome home, my beautiful boy. Love always, Ma. Jimmy folded the letter carefully. Lay down on Tommy's bed, staring at the ceiling with its familiar crack shaped like lightning. First night home in 18 months. Felt both right and wrong. Right to be safe. Wrong that Tommy never would be. Eventually, exhaustion won. He fell asleep fully clothed, boots still on. For the first time in months, he didn't have nightmares. Just dreams of muddy roads and walking miracles. Meanwhile, 6,000 miles away, Eleanor Hayes was having her own homecoming. June 10th, Munich Hauptbahnhof, 3 p.m. The train screeched to a halt. Eleanor pressed her face against the grimy window, heart pounding, as she took in what remained of Munich's main station. Half the roof was gone. Collapsed steel beams jutted toward the sky like broken bones. The platforms were cracked, hastily repaired with whatever materials could be found. "We're here," Margaret said quietly from the seat beside her. Home. But was it home? Could rubble be home? Eleanor gripped her single crutch, the one she'd graduated to in the final week at the hospital, and stood carefully. Her legs held. They always held now. The 12 women disembarked together, clutching their small parcels of donated clothes and food. American soldiers processed them quickly. Papers checked, stamps applied, welcome home, offered in broken German. Eleanor scanned the crowd waiting beyond the checkpoint. Families reuniting, some joyful, many tearful, so many searching for loved ones who would never come. Then she saw them. Mama, Papa. Her parents looked decades older. Her father, Otto Hayes, 64, seemed to have aged a lifetime. Thin, stooped gray. Her mother, Anna, 60, wore a threadbare coat and shoes held together with wire. But they were alive. Eleanor dropped her crutch and ran, slight limp, be damned, into their arms. Mein Gott, her mother sobbed. We thought you were dead. When the letter stopped, I'm here, Mama, I'm here. Her father pulled back, eyes scanning her head to toe. His gaze caught on the limp, the way she favored her right leg. What happened to you? It's a long story, Papa. The walk to her parents' house took 45 minutes. Should have taken 15. But Munich was unrecognizable. Entire blocks simply gone. Reduced to rubble. The beautiful buildings Eleanor had grown up with, the Opera House, the Frauenkirche Cathedral, the university, all damaged or destroyed. People lived in basements and makeshift shelters in the shells of bombed buildings. American and British military vehicles rolled past. Occupation had begun. Her parents' house miraculously still stood. Damaged windows, broken and boarded roof partially collapsed. But standing. Inside smelled of mildew and decay. No electricity, no running water. Candles for light. This was home now. That first night over thin soup made from American rations Eleanor had brought, she told them every moment. The 4-day march. Sergeant Klaus beating her. The collapse, the American medics. Jimmy. She pulled out the x-rays Dr. Foster had given her, showed them the metal pins in her spine. Americans did this. Her father's voice was skeptical. They saved you. Yes, Papa. But we were told the propaganda said. The propaganda lied. Eleanor's voice was firm. She pulled Tommy's dog tags from beneath her shirt. These belonged to an American soldier. He died fighting us. His brother, a medic named Jimmy, gave them to me. Said even enemies are human. Her mother touched the tags with trembling fingers. What happened to this Jimmy? He went home to Pennsylvania to become a doctor. Eleanor's voice caught. I don't know if I'll ever see him again. Her mother's eyes were knowing. You love him. Mama, don't deny it. I see it in your face when you say his name. Eleanor looked down at her soup. It doesn't matter. He's there. I'm here. The world is broken. We rebuild separately. Her father spoke up. The world can be rebuilt together too, Liebling, if people choose it. 2 months later, August 15th. Eleanor stood outside the Munich Education Office, now run by American military government. The building had survived bombing, though bullet holes scarred its facade. She'd been granted an interview for a teaching position. Inside, an American officer, Major Stevens, according to his nameplate, sat behind a battered desk. Mid-40s, graying temples, kind but shrewd eyes. Miss Hayes, he gestured to a chair. His German was accented but functional. Please sit. She sat back straight, despite the pain that still flared when she held position too long. Your application is unusual. Stevens studied the papers. You were a teacher before the war, yes? Yes, sir, at Schiller Gymnasium, literature and history. And during the war, Eleanor took a breath. Truth. She'd promised herself truth. I continued teaching, under the right curriculum, which meant I taught propaganda. Stevens's expression didn't change. Go on. I taught children that the Allies were monsters, that Germany's cause was just, that surrender meant death. Her hands trembled in her lap. I believed it then. I don't now. What changed? She met his eyes. Americans saved my life. A German sergeant broke my spine for trying to surrender. American doctors operated for 5 hours to repair it. American medics held my hand when I was terrified. Americans taught me that the enemy was more human than my own side. Stevens leaned back. You have medical records from the 128th Evacuation Hospital. Dr. William Foster's signature. Impressive. They were very kind, sir. Miss Hayes, I'll be direct. We need teachers desperately. Munich's education system is in ruins. But we need teachers who will teach democracy, critical thinking, freedom of thought, not propaganda. Can you do that? Eleanor thought of Jimmy, of his words. When you teach again, teach children to think, to question. Yes, sir. That's exactly what I want to teach. I want to teach children to question everything and even me, to seek truth, not comfort, to think, not obey. Stephen smiled, first real smile of the interview. When can you start? September 3rd, 1945. Eleanor's first day of school. The classroom was in a partially bombed building. Half the roof was tarp, windows broken, covered with boards. 32 desks, mismatched, salvaged from ruins. 32 students, ages 12 to 15, the ones who survived. They stared at her as she limped to the front. Whispers about her limp, she heard them. Didn't care. She wrote on the chalkboard in large letters, Denk für dich selbst, think for yourself. Turn to face them. My name is Fraulein Hayes. For the past 4 years, you've been taught what to think. Starting today, I teach you how to think. Confused faces. First lesson. I'm going to tell you a story about how I was taught that Americans were monsters and how I learned that was a lie. She pulled a chair to the front, sat, standing too long, still hurt. And then you were going to tell me, how do we know what's true? How do we know what's propaganda? That's your assignment, not to answer me, to question me. One boy, maybe 13, raised his hand tentatively. But Fraulein, isn't that dangerous to question? It's the most important thing you can do. Questioning is how we rebuild, not with blind obedience, with thought. She told them everything. The march, the beating, the American medics, the surgery, the recovery. She showed them her x-rays, let them see the metal pins. A German officer crippled me for trying to survive. American doctors gave me back my legs. What does that tell you? Silence. Then a girl, maybe 14. That propaganda lied. Yes, but more than that, it tells you never trust one source. Never believe without evidence. Always question, even especially authority. She could see it happening. The crack in the foundation of everything they'd been taught. Painful, necessary. This was her mission now, not just teaching reading and arithmetic, but teaching thought itself. Rebuilding minds, one student at a time. August 25th, a letter arrived. Eleanor was grading papers when her mother called up the stairs. Eleanor, mail from America. She nearly fell down the stairs in her haste. The envelope was thin, worn from travel. Red Cross stamp. Return address, Corporal James Miller, Temple University, Philadelphia, AUSA. Her hands shook as she opened it. Dear Eleanor, your letter found me. The Red Cross really are miracle workers. I'm home now. Pennsylvania. It's strange being back. Everything's the same, but I'm different. Does that make sense, Ma's doing well? She read your letter. I hope you don't mind. She said to tell you thank you for saving her boy. I told her you'd find that funny since I'm the one who saved you. She said, I don't understand mothers. I start medical school in 2 weeks. Temple University, 4 years of college first, then 4 years of medical school. 8 years total, long road. But you told me long roads can be traveled, so I'm trusting you on that. How are your legs? Are you still doing physical therapy? Please tell me you're not pushing too hard. I know you. You'd walk 10 miles just to prove you could. I think about you every day. Wonder if you're teaching. Wonder if the students believe you when you tell them the truth about the war. I hope they do. The world needs more truth tellers. I wear your cross every day. It reminds me that even in darkness there's light. You were my light in Bavaria. Still are, actually. Thank you for saving me, Eleanor Hayes. You probably don't think you did, but you did. When I was drowning in hate, you threw me a lifeline called hope. Write back when you can. Tell me about Munich, about your students, about everything, yours, Jimmy. P.S. How are your legs? Yes, I asked twice, I worry. Eleanor read it 3 times, then a 4th. Then she cried. Good tears, relief tears, missing him tears. Her mother found her at the kitchen table, letter clutched to her chest. Good news or bad? Good. So good. Eleanor wiped her eyes. Mama, I need paper and a pen. Good ones. Writing back already? Yes, right now, before I lose courage. She wrote, Dear Jimmy, your letter made me cry. Happy tears, don't worry. I'm teaching again. Started 2 weeks ago. The students are broken but healing. Like me. Like all of us, Munich is rubble. But we're rebuilding, not just buildings, minds, hearts. The American occupation has brought food medicine organization. It's strange being governed by former enemies. But they're fair, firm but fair. My legs are good. I walk 5 kilometers every day, yes, to prove I can, you know me too well. Small limp, but no pain. Dr. Foster's work was perfect. I wrote him a letter too. He wrote back, said he's proud of my progress. I wear Tommy's tags every day. They remind me that even in war, humanity survives. That brothers protect sisters, even enemy sisters. You saved me twice, Jimmy Miller. Once with morphine and surgery, once with kindness when hate would have been easier. I think of you every day too. When I teach students to question, I think Jimmy would be proud. When I choose mercy over bitterness, I think Jimmy showed me how. Medical school, 8 years. That's so long. But you'll be an amazing doctor. You already saved so many lives. You'll save thousands more. Write me about school, about Pennsylvania, about your mother, about everything. Yours, Eleanor. P.S. I enclosed a photograph. Me at my school ready to teach. See, I'm standing strong because of you. She included a photo taken by a colleague. Her standing outside the school building, slight limp visible, but posture straight. Behind her through the broken window, the chalkboard. Think for yourself, she mailed it the next day. It would take 6 weeks to reach Pennsylvania, but it would reach him, and that was enough. The letters continued. September through December, 1945. Jimmy's first semester was brutal. 24 years old, older than most freshmen who were 18, fresh from high school. While they worried about social lives, Jimmy worried about anatomy and chemistry while carrying memories of war. But he excelled, top of his class in biology, second in chemistry. Medicine came naturally. Years of battlefield triage had taught him to think fast, stay calm, see patterns. Every Friday night he wrote to Eleanor. Every other week a letter arrived from her. Her letters told of teaching triumphs and struggles, students who questioned beautifully, students who still clung to Nazi ideology. Slow progress, painful progress, but progress. His letters told of dissecting cadavers, memorizing bones, learning the intricate machinery of the human body. Each lesson he thought, this is how I saved Eleanor. This is how I'll save others. December brought their first Christmas apart. Jimmy spent it with Ma. They visited Tommy's grave, placed flowers, stood in snow. You're doing good, son, Ma said. Your brother would be proud. Eleanor spent Christmas in a freezing Munich apartment, writing by candlelight. Her Christmas letter arrived in January. The students performed a play about peace, about reconciliation. One boy played an American soldier. One girl played a German teacher. They became friends in the play. The parents cried. So did I. This is how we rebuild, one story at a time. 1946 rolled into 1947. Jimmy accelerated his program, applied for early admission to medical school, accepted, would start medical training in 47 instead of 49. He wrote Eleanor immediately. I'm accelerating. Finish undergrad in 3 years instead of 4. Start medical school in 1947. Dr. Foster pulled strings. Says I'm ready. I hope he's right. Eleanor's response. Of course you're ready. You've been ready since that muddy road. Trust yourself like I trust you, 1947 through 48. Medical school began. Jimmy was 26 now. Most classmates were 22, 23. But his war experience gave him an edge. While they flinched at blood, he stayed steady. His hands once shaking with hate, now steady with purpose. Clinical rotations started, working with real patients. He specialized in orthopedic surgery, inspired by Eleanor's case. December 1947. Eleanor's letter changed tone. We published my testimony about teaching propaganda, about the lies I told. It's in the newspaper. Some people call me traitor. Some call me hero. Most just call me honest. I can live with that. Jimmy's response. You're the bravest person I know. Telling truth when lies are easier, that's real courage. 1948, Jimmy's second year of medical school, 80-hour weeks. Exhaustion threatened to defeat him daily. But whenever it did, he'd touch Eleanor's cross around his neck. Remember why? June 1948, Eleanor's letter. Jimmy, I need to ask you something. Please be honest. Will you come to Germany after graduation? I know it's years away, still 1949 for you. And I know you have residency after. And I know it's asking too much. But I miss you. More than I can write in letters. I dream about that muddy road. About your hand holding mine. About the moment you chose mercy. Is it foolish to hope we could see each other again? Yours, Eleanor. Jimmy stared at that letter for 3 days. Finally wrote back. Eleanor, I want to. God, I want to. But I'm afraid. Afraid that seeing you again will make it harder to leave. Afraid that I'll graduate and accept a position in Pennsylvania and never have the courage to cross the ocean. Afraid that what we had in Bavaria was just war magic that won't translate to peace. But I'm more afraid of never knowing. So yes, when I graduate in 1949, I'll come. I'll find a way. I'll use my savings. I'll get leave. I'll move mountains if I have to. I'll come to Munich. And we'll figure out what we are. Because Eleanor, I think about you every single day. When I study the spine, I see yours fractured and repaired. When I learn about neural pathways, I remember your toes wiggling for the first time. You're in every textbook, every lecture, every patient I see. I don't know what that means, but I know I need to find out. 1949. Munich, I promise. Yours, Jimmy. 1949 arrived, May. Jimmy graduated medical school. Dr. James Miller, MD. The ceremony was in Philadelphia. Ma was there crying proud tears. Dr. Foster flew in from Baltimore. Knew you could do it, son. But all Jimmy could think was 2 months until Munich. He'd arranged everything, saved every penny from part-time work during school, booked passage on a ship to Germany in July. 2 weeks visit before starting residency at Johns Hopkins in August. 2 weeks to see if the magic was still there. He wrote Eleanor, I'm coming. July 15th. I arrive in Munich, July 18th. Can you meet me at the station? Her response arrived 10 days later. I'll be there. I've been waiting 4 years. I can wait 10 more days. Come home, Jimmy. Come home. July 18th, 1950. Munich Hauptbahnhof, 2:47 p.m. The train from Paris pulled in with a hiss of steam and screech of brakes. Jimmy stood at the window, heart hammering so hard he thought it might break his ribs. 5 years. 5 years since he'd seen her face in person. Would she look different? Would the magic still be there? He grabbed his small suitcase and stepped onto the platform. Munich station had been rebuilt significantly. New roof, repaired platforms, but scars remained. Bullet holes, cracked concrete, reminders. He scanned the crowd. There. Eleanor Hayes stood near the station entrance wearing a simple blue dress, hair longer than he remembered pulled back in a loose bun. 31 years old now, slight lines around her eyes that hadn't been there. And the limp, still there, probably always would be, but God, she was beautiful. Their eyes met across 30 yards of crowded platform. Neither moved for 5 seconds. Then she smiled that same smile from the hospital and started walking toward him. He did the same. They met in the middle, stopped 3 feet apart. Hi, Jimmy said. Hi. Eleanor's English had almost no accent now. Awkward pause. Then both laughed the same nervous, relieved laugh and closed the distance. The embrace was long, tight, desperate. 4 years of letters and longing compressed into one moment. You're here, Eleanor whispered against his shoulder. You're really here. I'm here. She pulled back, eyes scanning his face. You look tired. Residency hard. Very, but good tired. He smiled. You look amazing. Liar. I'm 31 and exhausted from teaching. Show me your hands. He extended his hands. Surgeon's hands now. Steady and sure. Eleanor took them, examined carefully. No shaking. Not since that day. Her eyes glistened. Come. I want to show you something. Eleanor drove a borrowed car from the school through rebuilt Munich. The city was unrecognizable from 45. Still scarred but alive. Rebuilding everywhere. New buildings rising. Streets cleared, people moving with purpose. Marshall Plan, Eleanor explained. American money rebuilding what American bombs destroyed. Ironic, yes. War's full of ironies. She drove to a school, modern building constructed in the past year. Schiller Gymnasium. This is where I teach. Inside, she led him to her classroom. Summer break, so it was empty, but the chalkboard still had her lesson from last week. Kritisches Denken. How do we distinguish truth from propaganda? This is what I teach, every day. Question everything. Seek evidence. Think for yourself. Jimmy walked around the room. Student work on the walls, essays about democracy, drawings about freedom, quotes from philosophers. One quote caught his eye, written in English. The enemy is not people. The enemy is ignorance. Did you write that? Yes, after I met you. He turned. She stood by her desk, watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read. Eleanor, why am I really here? She took a breath. Because I needed to see if what I feel is real or just memory. And what do you feel? She walked closer. When I teach my students about mercy, I think of you. When I choose forgiveness over bitterness, I remember your hand holding mine. When I walk, she gestured to her legs. Every step reminds me that you gave me this. Closer, 3 feet apart. I've spent 5 years wondering if I imagined how important you are to me. If distance made you mythic in my mind. If the scared girl in the mud just fell for her savior and mistook gratitude for something more. 2 feet. But seeing you now, I know it's not gratitude. 1 foot. What is it? Jimmy's voice barely above a whisper. I think I love you. I think I've loved you since the moment you chose mercy over hate. Silence. Jimmy's hands came up, cupped her face gently. I know I love you. I've known since you moved your toe for the first time and looked at me like I'd given you the world. Because in that moment you gave me mine. He kissed her. First kiss. 5 years in the making. Soft at first, tentative, then deeper. 5 years of longing poured into one moment. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Eleanor rested her forehead against his. What do we do now? She whispered. I don't know. I have to go back. Residency, 3 more years in Baltimore. And I have my students here. My work. So we wait. We've been waiting 5 years. What's 3 more? Jimmy laughed. You make it sound easy. It won't be, but some things are worth waiting for. That night, Eleanor took him to dinner with her parents. Otto and Anna Hayes had aged, but well, thinner but alive and sharp. The conversation was in German. Jimmy's German was still terrible, but he understood basics. Eleanor translated the rest. So you're the American medic, Otto said, studying Jimmy. Yes, sir. The one who saved our daughter. I did my job, sir. Your job was to let her die. Enemy POW with broken spine. Resources better used elsewhere. Otto's voice wasn't accusing, just factual. Papa, Eleanor protested, but Otto continued, yet you chose to save her. Why, Jimmy thought carefully, because in that moment, she wasn't German or American. She was just a person in pain. And I'd become a medic to heal pain, not cause it. Otto nodded slowly. You gave me back my daughter. Gave Germany back a teacher who's changing minds. I'm in your debt. No debt, sir. Just choose mercy when you can. That's payment enough. Anna Hayes, who'd been quiet, spoke up. Will you stay in Germany? The question hung heavy. I can't, not now. Residency in America, 3 years. And after, Jimmy and Eleanor exchanged looks. We don't know, Eleanor admitted. We're figuring it out. Anna smiled. Good. Mystery is good. Means there's a future to discover. Over the next 2 weeks, Jimmy and Eleanor fell into rhythm. Mornings she showed him rebuilt Munich, the Frauenkirche Cathedral repaired, the university functional again, the English garden where they walked for hours. Afternoons he attended lectures at Munich Medical School, met German doctors, learned their techniques, shared American methods. Evenings dinner conversation, holding hands under tables. Stolen kisses when parents weren't looking. On July 23rd, they drove to Bavaria, to the muddy road. It wasn't muddy anymore. Paved now. Small memorial marker on the side. April 23rd, 1945. Here mercy triumphed over hate. Eleanor had arranged for it. They stood at the exact spot. Jimmy remembered perfectly. Where Eleanor had fallen, where he'd knelt, where he'd made the choice. 5 years ago, Eleanor said softly, I fell here thinking I would die. 5 years ago, I knelt here wanting you to. She turned, not surprised. I know. I saw it in your eyes. The hate. But I chose different. You did. Why, Jimmy thought. Because Tommy's last words were, don't hate them too much. And because when I looked at you, I saw me. Scared. Hurt. Human. They stood in silence, remembering. Then Eleanor. Jimmy, I need to ask you something. Okay? What are we doing? You go back to America in 4 days. Residency for 3 years. I'm here. My work is here. I know. Long distance for 3 more years. Then what? You come here, I go there. We meet in the middle, in the Atlantic Ocean. Despite the seriousness, Jimmy laughed. That would be a wet compromise. She didn't laugh. I'm serious. I love you. I know that now. But love isn't enough if we're on different continents. Jimmy took her hands. Eleanor, I don't have all the answers. But I know this. In 3 years, when residency ends, I'll have options. Johns Hopkins wants me. Philadelphia General too. But you know what else? What U.S. military hospital in Munich offered me a position. Sent the letter 2 months ago. Chief of Orthopedic Surgery, American Military Hospital, treating soldiers and German civilians. Based here, in Munich. Her eyes widened. What? I could move here, if you want me to. If I want you'd leave America for me. For you, for us, for this. He gestured to the road. This is where my life changed, where I became who I'm supposed to be. Why would I leave that? Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. What about your mother? Ma told me to follow my heart, said she didn't raise me to play it safe. 3 years is a long time. Then we write letters, like we have been, and I'll visit, summers, Christmas, whenever I can. He pulled her closer. And in 3 years I come back, permanently, if you'll have me. If I'll have you, she laughed through tears. Jimmy Miller, I've been yours since you held my hand in the mud. Then we wait, 3 years, and then we build a life, together. He kissed her, deep and long and full of promise. 3 years passed in letters and occasional visits. August 1953. Jimmy's residency ended. 3 years, grueling, exhausting, incredible. He'd become one of the best orthopedic surgeons Johns Hopkins had seen. But he turned down their offer, packed his bags, said goodbye to Ma. Go get your girl Jimmy. Boarded a ship to Germany, arrived in Munich August 15, 1953. This time he wasn't visiting. This time he was staying. Eleanor met him at the station. Welcome home. Home, Jimmy repeated. Yeah, this is home now. September 1953. Jimmy started at U.S. Military Hospital Munich, Chief of Orthopedic Surgery, youngest person ever appointed. He treated American soldiers, German civilians, anyone who needed help. His first surgery in Germany, a German boy 12 years old hit by a car. Fractured spine. Family couldn't afford care. Jimmy operated for 6 hours. Pro bono. Saved the boy's ability to walk. When the father tried to pay. No charge, just teach your son to choose mercy. That's payment. Eleanor heard about it, showed up that night with dinner. You did it again, chose to save instead of hate. Learn from the best. December 1953. Jimmy proposed. Munich beer garden. Under Christmas lights. Eleanor Hayes, will you marry me? She pretended to think. Took you long enough. Is that a yes? Yes, you ridiculous man, yes. They kissed while the entire beer garden cheered. March 1954. The wedding. Small ceremony. Munich Catholic Church rebuilt after bombing. Attendees. Jimmy's side, Ma Doc Anderson, Frank Washington, Dr. Foster. Eleanor's side, parents Margaret Betty Grace, the others from the 12. Weber officiated as translator. Vows in English and German. Eleanor wore a simple white dress. Jimmy wore his army dress uniform. She wore Tommy's dog tags. He wore her cross. Full circle. When they kissed, Margaret sobbed so loudly the priest paused. At the reception toasts. Ma, to my son who crossed an ocean for love, your father would be so proud. Foster Bayan, to the best student I ever taught, May you save as many lives together as you've already saved separately. Margaret, to the enemy who showed us mercy, and to the woman brave enough to love him. Otto, to the American who gave me back my daughter. You're my son now. July 1955. Daughter born, Sarah Marie Miller, named after Jimmy's ma and Eleanor's mother. Jimmy delivered her himself, his hand steady catching his daughter as she entered the world. Eleanor exhausted but radiant. She's perfect, like her mother. August 1957, son born, Thomas James Miller, named after Tommy. Ma flew from Pennsylvania to meet him. Held her grandson, cried. Tommy would have loved him. The years rolled by. Jimmy's career flourished. Published papers on spinal surgery, trained German surgeons, built bridges between American and German medical communities. Eleanor's career soared. Principal now, her critical thinking curriculum adopted nationwide in West Germany. Published a book, Teaching After Trauma Education in Post-War Germany. They raised their children bilingual. American and German, two cultures, one family. Every April 23rd anniversary of the muddy road they visited the memorial. Brought the kids when old enough. Told them the story. Sarah, age 7. Daddy saved Mama. Yes, sweetheart. That's romantic. Tommy Jr., age 5. Was Uncle Tommy brave? The bravest. 1962. Berlin Wall went up. Jimmy and Eleanor attended protests. Held signs. Walls divide, mercy unites. 1965. Jimmy performed his 1,000th spinal surgery. Success rate 78%. Patient 1,000. A young American soldier paralyzed in training accident. Jimmy operated 8 hours. Soldier walked again. The soldier's mother wrote, You gave me back my son, just like someone gave you back your wife. Thank you doesn't cover it. But thank you, 1967. Eleanor's book translated to 12 languages. Harvard invited her to lecture. She spoke for 90 minutes without notes about teaching truth in the aftermath of propaganda. Standing ovation, April 1970, 25th anniversary, 25 years since the muddy road. Jimmy, 49, and Eleanor, 51, organized a reunion. Munich hosted. Attendees, Doc Anderson, 68, Frank Washington, 47, Dr. Foster, 71, Rebecca Mills, 55, Captain Thompson, 30 plus, others from the hospital, and the 12 women. Well, 10, 2 had died, but the rest came. Margaret, 56, Betty, 53, Grace, 55, the others. Ceremony at Munich City Hall. Plaque unveiled. In memory of those who chose mercy over hatred. April to May, 1945. Doc Anderson spoke. 25 years ago, we saw enemies as enemies, but some of us saw enemies as human. Corporal Miller taught me that. By saving Eleanor, and Eleanor taught us all. By forgiving. Eleanor spoke. I fell on a muddy road expecting death. Instead, I found life, found love, found purpose, because strangers chose kindness. That's the victory. Not military, but human. Jimmy spoke. My brother died 4 months before I met Eleanor. I carried hate like a weapon. She disarmed me with her humanity. That's the real miracle of that road. Not the medical one, but the human one. Newspapers covered it. Story went international. 1971, Jimmy and Eleanor published joint memoir, The Muddy Road When Enemy Became Savior, co-authored. His perspective, her perspective, intertwined chapters, published in German and English simultaneously. Reception, Germany bestseller. USA moderate success. Veteran communities embraced it. Eventually 30 languages, book tour. They spoke together, finished each other's sentences, told the story as one. Audiences cried every time. 1975. Sarah, 20, graduated university. Became professor of international relations. Tommy Jr., 18, started medical school. Wanted to be orthopedic surgeon like his father. Jimmy watched his son study anatomy. Full circle. 1980, Jimmy, 59, considered retirement. But patients still needed him. Eleanor, 61, did retire from teaching. But wrote, consulted, spoke. They traveled. America, Germany, Europe. Saw the world at peace together. 1985, 40th anniversary, smaller celebration. Many from the hospital had died, but core group remained. Doc Anderson, 82, frail but alive. Frank Washington, 61. A few others. And the women. Margaret, 75. Betty, 68. Grace, 70. Where Doc Anderson pulled Jimmy aside. You became a better doctor than I ever was. Doc, that's not... Let me finish. You became a better man than I ever was. You chose love over hate. You chose mercy when it was hardest. Your brother would be so damn proud. Doc died 2 months later. Jimmy gave the eulogy. November 9th, 1989. Berlin Wall fell. Jimmy 68 and Eleanor 70 in Berlin to witness history. The wall symbol of division crumbling. Eleanor cried, if only they'd known in 45. We didn't need walls. We needed bridges. Jimmy held her. We built a bridge, you and I, one muddy road at a time. They watched Germans from east and west embrace, strangers becoming family, just like a medic and a teacher 44 years ago. 1990, Jimmy fully retired. Age 69, performed 10,347 surgeries over 37 years. 78% success rate, Eleanor asked. Any regrets? Just one. What one? That Tommy never got to meet you. You'd have loved each other. I know him through you. That's enough. May 1995, 50th anniversary of WWII Day. Major celebrations. Munich, Berlin, Washington, D.C., Jimmy 74 and Eleanor 76 honored at all three. Presidential recognition, chancellor recognition, medals from both countries. Their children, Sarah 40, now renowned professor, Thomas 38, established orthopedic surgeon, 6 grandchildren. At the D.C. ceremony, Jimmy gave a speech. 50 years ago, I hated. I was consumed by it. One woman changed that. On one muddy road in Bavaria, she taught me that forgiveness is stronger than hate, that real healing starts with one choice. Choose mercy every time. Standing ovation. 2005, 60th anniversary. Quieter celebration. Most from the hospital were gone. Frank Washington, 81, still alive. Sharp as ever. Of the 12 women, Eleanor, Margaret, Betty remained. Small gathering at the Muddy Road Memorial Site. Jimmy, 84, and Eleanor, 86, stood at the spot where it all began. 60 years, Jimmy said. Best 60 years, Eleanor replied. Any regrets? Never you, not 1 second. They held hands, older, grayer, slower, but still them, still the medic and the teacher, still choosing mercy. February 2015, Eleanor's death. Eleanor died peacefully at age 96, at home, in the Munich house she and Jimmy had shared for 60 years, surrounded by family, Sarah holding one hand, Thomas the other, Jimmy at her bedside. Her last words to Jimmy, see you on the road. He understood, the muddy road, where they'd meet again. She died at 3:47 a.m. Jimmy held her for an hour, then finally let go. The funeral, Munich Cathedral, 500 plus attendees, students she'd taught now in their 60s and 70s. Doctors Jimmy had trained, colleagues, family, friends, Margaret 95 in wheelchair attended. Last of the 12 women, Jimmy gave the eulogy, voice steady despite grief. She saved my life. Not on that road, though she did that too. Every day after. She taught me love is louder than war. Forgiveness is the only victory that matters. And mercy is the bravest choice we ever make. Pause. The world lost a great teacher today, but heaven gained the greatest one I ever knew. Buried in Munich Cemetery. Headstone, Eleanor Hayes Miller, 1919 to 2015. Teacher, truth teller, beloved. Thoughts are free. December 2018, Jimmy's death. Jimmy lived 3 more years, wrote final chapters of their story, updated the memoir, but age caught up. 97 years old. Hospice care at home. Children and grandchildren present. Tommy's dog tags around his neck. Eleanor had been buried with her own set, a second pair Jimmy got made. Eleanor's cross in his hand. Last conversation with son Thomas. Dad, are you afraid? No, I'm going to see her, and Tommy, and Doc, and all the people I lost. What should we do with your story? Tell it, keep telling it. The muddy road, the choice, the love. Tell them mercy always wins. Thomas, I will, Dad, promise. Jimmy smiled. Good boy. Last word. Eleanor died peacefully. December 12, 2018, age 97. The funeral. Buried next to Eleanor. Munich Cemetery. Joint headstone. Dr. James Jimmy Miller, 1921 to 2018. Healer. Husband. Hero. Eleanor Hayes Miller, 1919 to 2015. Teacher. Wife. Light. Together, they chose mercy when hate was easier and changed the world one life at a time. 2025. The legacy lives on. The Miller Foundation, established by Sarah and Thomas, funds U.S.-German medical exchanges, spinal injury research, war reconciliation education, annual Muddy Road Scholarship for medical students studying peace. The book, The Muddy Road, still in print, 30-plus languages, 3 million-plus copies sold. Required reading in German and American schools. Adapted into documentary. The Last Mercy. The Memorial. Bavaria site now official landmark. Thousands visit annually. Plaque in English and German. Here, April 23, 1945, enemy became human. Final scene. 2025. Thomas Miller, 88, stands at the Muddy Road Memorial with his grandson, medical student, 22 years old. Tell me the story again, Grandpa. Thomas smiles. Your great-grandfather saved a woman here. Your great-grandmother. He could have let her die. He chose to save her. And that choice changed everything. Because he became a doctor. No, because he became human again. Because he chose mercy over hate. And that rippled out. To me. To you. To thousands of lives saved. To students taught to think. To a world that learned forgiveness is possible. The young man looks at the memorial. I want to be like him. Then choose mercy. Every time. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. They stand in silence. The road paved now, peaceful. Birds singing. Sun shining. No mud. No war. No hate. Just a memorial. And a choice that echoes through generations. Some roads are muddy. Some are hard. Some are bloody. But every road is a choice. I chose mercy. I chose love. I chose Eleanor. And I would choose her again. Every time. In every life. Because that's what it means to be human. To choose light when darkness is easier. To choose life when death is simpler. To choose love when hate is all you've known. That's the victory. Not in war. In peace. Not in hate. In forgiveness. Not in death. In mercy. That's my legacy. That's our story. The Muddy Road that led to everything. Dr. James Jimmy Miller, 1921 to 2018. Eleanor Hayes Miller, 1919 to 2015. Married 62 years. Saved over 10,000 lives between them. Taught 50,000 plus students. Proved that even in war's darkest hour, humanity can triumph. Their story is true, their love was real, their choice changed the world. One muddy road at a time.